The benefits of a diversity for an economic region like Cincinnati are almost too numerous to count. Being in the Midwest, growing our diversity and increasing the inclusion that must go with that is a continuous challenge for us. But at the same time, we know that we need to take the region to where the country is going instead of where the country has been if we're going to be economically prosperous. That as our companies in the region develop new markets in the U.S. and around the globe, that their workforce must reflect the changing populations that they're serving. So it's in our best interest to continue to diversify the population and to create an inclusive community that makes it possible for everyone to have a great life. When I say where the country is going as opposed to where it's been, what I mean is that there are obvious, huge, sweeping demographic changes that have been happening in the U.S. over the last several decades. And although they haven't been felt to the same extent in the Midwest, we know that ultimately they will be. Our whole concept of majority and minority are shifting. And even with the current discourse around racial politics, there's so much more in that discussion that needs to happen. And we see a time when our country really needs to reflect that changing population and feel like we should be intentional about drawing the changing demographics to the region as opposed to waiting for it to come to us. Well, it's hard work to attract a diverse population, especially if you're a region like us that starts out with a baseline of 82% non-Hispanic white population. But we're doing it by bringing together all the organizations and interests that might be brought to bear on tackling that problem and that issue. So we work with employers because we're a chamber of commerce. We work closely with employers. We have 4,000 members, and we're engaging many of them in the work of saying, what can we do collectively to become savvier at attraction and then, even more important, retention of a diverse talent in our region. So it's a combination of what happens inside an organization that makes a person feel welcome and to feel that they have true opportunity to grow and develop and to lead in the organization. But we need to be sure that in the community, when they step out into the community at the end of the workday, that the community experience is equally good. And so we're doing some very specific things to make that happen. One of them is what we think is a very powerful idea, which is about using affinity networks within companies. Everyone calls them something else. In Cincinnati alone, they're called affinity networks, they're called employee resource groups, they're called business resource groups. But essentially, a lot of companies started them initially for women in the organization so they could connect and feel grounded in the organization. And then ultimately they expanded to include ethnic populations and African Americans and blacks and the LGBT community, sometimes veterans. I mean, Kroger Company has one for new parents because they all share sleep deprivation, right? So you bring all these people together and you help them feel embedded in an organization and more connected, and that grows retention. So we're taking that idea and we're lifting it up out of the companies and cross-fertilizing those groups in the community to say, what if people from Procter & Gamble, who are Asia Pacific Islanders, met the same population from General Electric, then would they become more embedded in the community and not just in their company? So we haven't fully developed the idea right now, but we think that it has big potential for us over time to actually drive retention as we bring people together across the community and provide more evidence that there is increasing diversity in the community. I haven't heard the whole story about this today, but one of the things that I like in looking through what's yet to come is the emphasis on using, I'm sure the name of the program is Diverse City on Board. And I love that idea because we've talked a lot about using leadership programs and board development programs in our community as retention strategies as well. So getting individuals who are new to the community or getting individuals who are underrepresented in sort of corridors of power in community organizations on board, literally, to participate and to be engaged in the work of our big nonprofits, of our community organizations, as another way of making sure that those voices are heard, but also that those individuals are fully embedded and embraced in the community.